Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. And today I'm going to do a brief video per request from one of my subscribers, Jonathan. I want to thank you, Jonathan, for utilizing my tabbing services. I really appreciate it. And his question is, one day would you consider doing a brief video on why to use different size picks? I used to play with the medium sized picks for years, but I noticed that when I started playing with the thin line picks, I could hit the single notes easier without making any mistakes. So his question is, I guess, what do you recommend, or your take on picks? Because that's all I can give you as far as my takes, because that's one of those areas where it's kind of debatable, depending on your needs or your style of playing. Depends on the type of pick that you use. But me personally, just about my entire career of playing, I've played with thin pickup or thin picks, and the reason for me using thin picks is because everything that I use as far as strings and picks have always been thin. I'm not a big fan of the heavy gauge guitar strings, but to each his own, because I don't have really big fingers. So anything that makes it easier for me to play, that's what I want to utilize. The majority of the strings that I put on my guitars are always extra light gauges, 008 gauge and 009. I really don't go past 009. But to each his own, and everybody's different, because when I first started to learn how to play, I ran across music teachers that wanted to put 11 and 10s on my guitars, and it's like playing barbed wire. So I quickly averted that, because I realized at that point you have to play what makes you comfortable, and not necessarily solely rely on other people's recommendations when it comes to things like that, because everybody's different. Now, when it comes to a teacher encouraging you to use proper technique of playing, that's a different story. But as far as your strings, that's a personal preference. And the same thing with the picks. I've always used light gauge picks. The only time I use medium gauge picks is when I'm playing my acoustic guitar. And the reason for that is because the strings on my acoustic are a thicker gauge. Because I realize, as you progress, the adjustments you have to make, because when I first started playing, I wanted everything light gauge. I want my electric light gauge, I want my acoustic light gauge, but not a good idea to put real light gauges on acoustics. And it's kind of hard to explain, but for one, the tone is different when you use a lighter gauge. And for some reason, it tends to do something to the neck. I really can't explain. I can only tell you as far as my experiences. But that's the only time I use a medium gauge string pick. Also, the pick that I personally use, because I've had people ask me this question, what picks do you use? And for the last 2 years, I've been playing Dunlop picks, light gauge. And then what's cool about this one is it kind of has where you grip it. It's kind of like an abrasion, kind of like sandpaper. And what makes that effective is because since it's kind of gritty and kind of edged or raised, you can grip it better. So when you start to stroke the strings or strum the strings, it acts kind of as like a torque, where when you have just a smooth pick like this one here, it tends to start moving around when you're playing and strumming real hard. Because when I first started playing, by the time the third song in our set, my pick on the floor, because it just flew out of my hand. But I'm actually working on the idea, and I'm probably trying to get it patented, as far as a certain type of pick. And this particular pick will do the same as this one, where it will kind of gripping your fingers real good, and you won't be slipping and sliding, or it'll be moving as you play it. And also, they're different size picks. This is kind of like the standard size. I've seen them bigger, I've seen them smaller, so it tends to vary. But for me personally, I go with the light gauge picks. I never use heavy, never ever use heavy. Maybe when you're picking bass, but other than that, the thin always works for me. The brand is Dunlop, and like I said, it has these like raised kind of abrasions on each side, which makes it very easy to grip it, and as you play, it doesn't move around. So hopefully this has been helpful to you guys and to Jonathan, as far as my take on what types of guitar picks you should use. So I'm going to sign off now, and as always, I thank you guys for watching. Take care.